Hello, and welcome to the Misty Morrison podcast. I'm your host, the wonderful Misty Morrison. So, let me tell you a little bit about the podcast. Here on the Misty Morrison podcast, we have 3 different segments. We have Was I in the Wrong, which was our initial launching segment, where I read Reddit stories and give my opinion. It's mostly Am I the Asshole type stories, where people are either asking if they acted appropriately in a situation that's already passed or asking how to deal with a current situation. The next segment that we have is Petty Please, where we read stories of pettiness, entitlement, kind of Karen behavior. And then we also have What the Fluff, where I read stories. A lot of the stories will be from, tales from the front desk, tales from retail, tales from customer service, tales from tech support, those kind of stories, just where it's just unbelievable the way that people acted. So that is basically what the podcast is. I read the stories, give my opinion. While this is available in audio format, podcast only, or video on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, you can leave a comment down below with your judgment on the stories or your advice. If you are listening on podcast, you can comment on socials. You can find me at Misty Morrison Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I post twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We do post more Was I in the Wrong than we do of Petty Please and What the Fluff. So that's mostly the content that we have. And most of our episodes, we aim for the 20 to 30 minute mark for episodes. So it's not super short, but it is still easy to digest. Maybe it can get you through your morning or afternoon commute. I also have my own subreddit, r/Misty Morrison Podcast, where you can submit your own stories to be read on the podcast. I always try to remember to put the link to the original stories on Reddit in the description box below in case you guys would like to read the original story for yourselves, or even better, leave a comment for the original poster or OP. If you are watching on YouTube, please go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. It helps the channel grow. And if you are listening on podcast, go ahead and leave a 5-star review if you like the content. That is our introduction, so let's get into the stories. Hello, and welcome back to the Misty Morrison Podcast. This is episode 7 of Was I in the Wrong? Let's jump right on into the stories. So our first story is coming from r/Am I the Asshole? AITA for accidentally ruining my autistic boyfriend's safe food? My boyfriend loves stew. He wants to eat it every day for every meal. His favorite stew is beef tips and vegetables from a local place, but it's really expensive, like $47 for a big bowl. They don't do small orders for takeout, and he is grossed out by leftovers, so more than half of it gets wasted. We've had a couple of arguments about it. He says I don't understand his brain. I say he doesn't understand our budget. Recently, I looked up some recipes, including doing a dissection of the takeout soup, and tried my hand at making a home-cooked replacement for stew night. He loved it for a few days, and then one night he was hanging out with me in the kitchen and saw me put tomato paste into the pot. He was really upset and demanded that I make the soup without the paste. I told him it wouldn't taste the same, and he said it would be better because he hates tomatoes. They're not a safe food for him. So I made the soup with no tomato paste, and big surprise, something felt off about it to him. Instead of admitting that the tomato paste was necessary, he threw a fit and told me he didn't want home-cooked food anymore if I was going to play with him and not take his safe food seriously. He thinks I changed more than just the tomato paste in an effort to get him to admit he was wrong. $400 in stew orders later, I had an idea to ask the chef when we were picking up the order if there was any tomato products in the stew. And lo and behold, there is tomato in the recipe. Effing tomato paste. In my mind, this was great because I thought he would get over it if he knew his original perfect stew had tomato paste in it, like, oh, I guess tomato paste isn't so bad then. But it was the exact opposite. He walked out of the restaurant without saying anything and then refused to eat the stew that night and hasn't ordered it again. And he's been ignoring me while sulking around the house using his whiny voice a lot and slamming things. His sister also texted me to tell me I'm a selfish asshole for needing to get back at him by taking his favorite food away. I literally just wanted to stop spending insane amounts of money on stew. I wasn't trying to hurt him or ruin his life. I'm not autistic. I can't really wrap my head around caring this much about a single ingredient. I genuinely didn't see this reaction coming. We've been together for 4 years, and he's only had 3 other fits like this. The other ones were pretty reasonable. Those were also little less intense and didn't include input from his family. This is the first time anyone in his family has ever spoke to me like this. So I've been back and forth between y'all are overreacting and what have I done? AITA, it sounds so dumb when I write it all out, but living it has made me feel physically sick with regret. I can't think straight anymore. And there is an edit. Oh, not an edit. ETA, I'm getting ready for work right now, so I can't respond to individual comments, but there's some recurring confusion/questions I wanted to clear up because it might affect the answers. 1, the stew place is a catering place with a mini restaurant, so every time we order takeout, we're ordering a catering amount pretty much. It's not stew made of gold, lol. 2, we order from there 2 to 3 nights a week. It's not the only thing he eats, it's just the top 5 foods for him. He doesn't eat this unreasonably every single day. 3, he has a job and contributes with money. I'm not funding his entire diet. We do mix money, so even though he pays for the meal half the time, it does still feel like we're losing money. He works part-time and I work full-time. Bills are probably split 70-30. That was a long one. Total disclaimer, I have no experience or familiarity with autism. Just putting that out there first. So ultimately the question is AITA for quote unquote ruining his safe food. No, because you didn't do it on purpose and you had no way of seeing a response like this coming. Like, you truly went into this trying to help him be happy to get the meal he wants and also help you guys not drain your budget on a massive pot of stew that you're only going to eat once because he doesn't like leftovers. Like, you really walked into this wholeheartedly with good intentions, trying to solve a problem, what you viewed as a problem, which was the expense and the waste, and still letting him have his favorite food. The chances of him, realizing, he already ate it. He knew he liked it. He knew it matched up with his favorite stew. And then the moment he saw you putting tomato paste in it, it was a problem, cannot get past it kind of problem. And that is unreasonable. Again, I don't know how neurodivergency affects his ability to get past that, but in general, by and large, fully unreasonable reaction. And OP, you are right. You are not the asshole. You had good intentions, and you had no way of seeing this derail like this. I don't know if he'll get past it. Yeah, good luck. Let's find story number 2. All right, story number 2 is coming to us from r/AITAH. AITAH for telling a plus-size woman that I love being skinny. Oh, I forgot to give you my immediate reaction. Okay. Immediate reaction, no. I mean, that's your opinion and you're entitled to it. So let's see where the details come out. I dread going to my childhood friend's birthday party every year. We moved apart a decade ago, and even though I'll always care deeply about her, we are very different people now, and her friend group reflects this. She has one friend, let's call her Amanda, who, without fail, has to comment on my weight every single time she sees me. You're so skinny. Do you even eat? Does your boyfriend care that you don't have curves? Your legs are like sticks. For the record, I eat plenty. I just have a fast metabolism, which keeps me super thin. I keep a strong face when Amanda says these things to me, but truthfully, she's touching on my worst insecurities, and it makes me dread going to these parties every year. I was considering not going this year until I talked to my mom about it. My mom had what I thought was a great idea on how to deal with Amanda. She suggested I pretend she's giving me a compliment. My mom told me if Amanda says, "You're so skinny," just smile and say, "Thanks, I love being skinny." And if she looks disappointed at your response, you'll have proven she was trying to insult you. I thought this was great advice. However, something I had failed to mention to my mom was that Amanda was overweight. I didn't realize this meant I was entering potential asshole territory. Anyway, the dreaded birthday party day comes. And of course, no surprise, Amanda immediately looks at my arms and comments how tiny they are. I ignored this comment. Then later on in the day, we were standing in a group together and she was eyeing me up and down. She chuckled to herself and says, "God, you're so skinny." And I thought, okay, here it is. Here's my moment. I turned to her, smiled, and said, "Thanks, I love being skinny." And then, and I'm completely serious here, she slaps me in the face. What? No. I was in complete shock, just staring back at her, mouth hanging open, with my hand on my cheek. Everyone was silent. She suddenly bursts into tears and runs out of the room. Two of her friends chase her. Only one other girl and my childhood friend asked if I was okay, but everyone else was just shooting me dirty looks. I promptly left the party, which sucked because I had a 2-hour commute and had planned to sleep over. The next day, I was texting with my childhood friend about it. She basically thinks that even though Amanda shouldn't have slapped me, that I was insensitive for saying I love being skinny to a plus-size person. I argued that Amanda has been consistently insensitive to me every party, and I didn't comment on her body, only my own. She told me that it's different because being skinny is socially acceptable, and that Amanda wouldn't usually do something like this, but I triggered her with my insult. My mom thinks I am in the right, but this was all her idea, so of course she does, LOL. So, AITA for what I said to Amanda. First off, your mom is a rock star. That is a brilliant comment. I am here for it. I am on board. No, OP, you are right. You are not the asshole. I actually think this is pretty comical. No one would have been on her side if you two didn't have different body types. And that's the thing, it shouldn't matter. Like, it's not okay for an overweight person to criticize a skinny person's physique, just the same as it's not okay for a skinny person to criticize an overweight person's physique. Like, it doesn't change based on which side it's coming from. She was deliberately trying to insult you, and she couldn't handle it when you gave it back. So, I'm here for it. I am so sorry that she slapped you. You did not deserve that. Your words probably hurt her, but she needed to know that her words hurt you just the same. So, I am proud of you for going with what your mom suggested. I think it was a great idea. Yeah, you are right. And if your childhood friend, like, she has a completely different friend group now, and if she's not supporting you in this when you were the one who was physically assaulted, yeah, I think it's time to finally let that friendship go and, get a new friend group that is more supportive of you. I loved that one. That one was great. Okay, man, I do not think we can beat that one for episode 7. But that was 2 stories, so let's find story number 3. It is so cold in here right now. Let's see. Okay, here's a different one. All right, story number 3 is coming from r/AITAH. AITA for agreeing to divorce. I, 36 male, agreed to a divorce with my wife, 35 female. Now my family and friends are calling me an asshole for not trying harder. I did try, but I can see that things are not working with me and Jane. Jane and I have been together for 14 years and been married for 10. We have 3 children together, Sarah, 10 female, Mason, 8 male, and Riley, 3 female. Jane is a pharmacist, and I worked in the tech industry. I've moved up in the ranks and have become a manager. I've worked my ass off and continue to work hard. I work 50 to 70 hours a week, including weekends. I know, I'm now aware that I haven't dedicated enough time for family in the recent years. I supported us and took care of the family while Jane was in pharmacy school. She had classes, internships, rotations, about 5 days a week. She would be gone for about 10 hours a day. During this time, I wouldn't complain. I would work from home when I could. I paid for a babysitter. I did the chores while Jane was away. When Jane would come back, she would try to take over parental duties, but I felt bad watching her deal with a crying baby while she was studying. I ended up taking care of the babies. Eventually, Jane got a job at a hospital. Her schedule is pretty normal now. She gets home in time to pick up Riley from daycare and be home in time for Sarah and Mason. She takes Mason to afternoon soccer and takes the other with her. I usually get home when she's finishing up dinner. We try to eat dinner together, but sometimes I still have late meetings, so I eat in the office room. Jane usually puts the kids to sleep, and I go to bed around 1 a.m. One afternoon, Jane's mom came over and picked up the kids. Jane and I had the whole day to ourselves. I played video games, and she spent the day in our bedroom. In the evening, she ordered some Chinese food. We had dinner together. It felt routine. I just felt deja vu, like maybe I read this one. I guess I'll keep reading, and if it's one we've already read, I'll do better. We had dinner together. It felt routine, nothing out of the ordinary until she asked, "Are you happy?" I didn't expect that. I said, "Sure, as happy as I can be." She started crying and said she wasn't. She said she felt alone and was the only one doing parenting. She couldn't keep up with the demands of her job, being a parent, and taking care of the house. I told her I felt that way too when she was in school, but I pushed through and things got better. She said, "I don't even try anymore now." She said, "All I do is work and I don't help around the house. I don't go out with her and the kids on my time off." I said, "Yes, I want to do my things on my time off." She got angry and said I wasn't the person she expected when we got married. She asked to see a counselor or get divorced. I agreed to it. We saw a counselor a few times for 3 months. I listened. I tried to help around the house more and help with the kids, but it's hard because of my demanding job. One night, I stayed late in the office on a Friday night. The idea of having to go home and face my unhappy wife, unhappy kids, and unhappy home was too much. I decided it would be best to divorce. I came home late, and my wife woke up when I got in bed. She asked why I was so late. I told her the truth. I was thinking about our unhappiness and the next few years. It wasn't worth trying to fix this, and we should divorce. Obviously, things weren't getting better. I felt bad that she cried, but I knew she wanted it too. She left the room, and I think she slept on the couch. The next morning, she and the kids were gone. I had a few missed calls and texts from her. Jane and the kids were spending the weekend at her mom's place. She said if I still want the divorce, then she would sign the papers once I present them. I started the process immediately. I looked for a lawyer and looked into getting a divorce. Jane and I are like roommates. She takes the kids away on the weekends, and she doesn't invite me anywhere anymore. I guess she told everyone we're getting a divorce. My sisters called me, our close friends called me, and my mom called me. They said I was an asshole for being a terrible husband and dad. I'm the asshole for wanting a divorce instead of trying to fix the marriage. I mean, I guess they're right, but Jane was the one who mentioned divorce first. Jane's mom spoke to me once when she came over. She asked if I ever loved Jane and the kids. I truthfully said yes. I did. I do love them. Her mom just looked disappointed, but has never said anything else. So, am I the asshole here for agreeing to a divorce? Ooh. I really hope I did not read the story before, because if my take is different now than it was then, this is bad. No, OP, you are right. I do not think you're the asshole for agreeing to a divorce. She brought it up first, and if she was not ready for that, if it was not something that she thought she wanted, it never should have come out of her mouth. Like, divorce is a big word, and I don't think you should ever say it in passing unless you are like fully committed. We're only getting one side of the story here, but from your point of view, it does seem like you were once in her position where you were doing it all and you felt alone, and you were willing and able to power through for the family, for the relationship. And now that roles are reversed, it doesn't seem like she can look back with that perspective and see that what she's going through now is what she put you through before. Yeah, I mean, if you're done, you're done. I don't think there's anything that can change your mind. But if the simple question is, are you the asshole for agreeing to the divorce? No. No. She brought it up. She said she wanted it. And now everyone's upset that you are giving her what she asked for. You are right. I'm sorry that it's working out this way. I'm sorry that she couldn't power through like you did to get through the tough years. But it all works out how it's supposed to. Let's find story number 4. All right, story number 4 is coming from r/AITAH. AITAH for telling my wife I would be leaving if she kept acting baby crazy. My wife and I have 2 kids, 9 and 6. After the second one, she said she was done having kids even though we had discussed having 3 prior to marriage. We talked about it for a long time, but I love her and I agreed to change our plans. She had an IUD, but we still used condoms. She really didn't want to get pregnant. About 4 years ago, we agreed that I would get a vasectomy. It made sense since it was a minor surgery, unlike her getting tubal ligation. It went well, and after I healed up, I went for testing and it worked. If you ever get a vasectomy, please do the follow-up testing. My friend from college thought he was good to go, and now he has a kid. So she got her IUD removed, and we stopped using condoms, and life was good. Until her sister each had another kid. Then one of her friends had a baby, and my wife went nuts. She wants another baby. She made a mistake and wants me to go get my vasectomy reversed, or to get my sperm harvested and get IVF. I don't say this word. The F am I getting a needle in my balls or another operation? And we are actually doing great financially right now. Her taking 2 years off from work would be a big hit. I said we could look at adoption or fostering, but that I was not interested in her having another kid. She tried bringing up our agreement from before we got married, but I shut that down immediately. So for the last 4 months, our marriage has been a simmering battle about another kid. She has had her parents over, my parents over, her sisters and their families, all trying to convince me that I should give in. F that noise. I am almost 44. In 12 years, my youngest will be starting their career or their post-secondary education. I can see the finish line now. I did offer all the family members that chimed in a fun option. I agreed to get TESA, sperm harvesting, if all the men who agreed with my wife did it as well. Even if they had working ball tubes at their own expense, and that they pool their money and pay for all bills related to IVF and the raising of the 3rd kid. They all say I'm being ridiculous and petty. I reminded them that as a unit, they all agree with my wife when she said she was fine with 2 kids. They wanted to have input then, and it was free. I said this decision would require skin in the game. It all came to a head last weekend. My folks had the boys, so we could have a nice couple of days to ourselves. Instead, my wife and I got into a screaming match. She said I obviously didn't love her if I wasn't willing to do this, that we are well off enough to afford all the expenses of another kid, blah, blah, blah. I told her in no uncertain terms, no. We had money in the bank for retirement and for fun, and that's what it was for. Not for her to get her hormones calmed down. She accused me of caring more about money than her happiness. I reminded her that she was the one who insisted that having a third kid would demolish her career. She started crying and saying I was an asshole for denying her another kid, that it was not that much of a sacrifice. I finally unloaded and said that a divorce would be cheaper for me than another kid. That shocked her into silence. We have barely spoken since. I think I broke her. Our retirement funds are separate. Our house is in both our names, and she earns slightly more than I do. If we get divorced, I will get 50-50 custody. I would want it. She would get no alimony, and I might get a few dollars in child support. I feel shitty threatening her with divorce. I love her, and I want to spend the rest of my life with her, but I am sick and tired of having her make our reproductive decisions like my opinion does not matter. Edit. A bunch of you keep asking how I would tell my sons that I'm divorcing their mom because she wants another baby. I just typed this as a reply, but I actually like it enough to paste it here so you can stop asking. Quote, Mommy and Daddy agreed before getting married that we would have 3 babies. But then Mommy got an important job and did not want to, and I quote, waste her time having another kid and wrecking her body again. Daddy was sad, so he held on for 4 years, hoping she would change her mind. But then they talked, and she said it was a permanent decision. Since Daddy loved Mommy, he did not want her to be hurt even a tiny bit, so Daddy went to the doctor. At the doctor, they gave Daddy medicine so he would not feel pain. Then they cut his ball sack open a tiny bit and burned the connection between his balls and the rest of his body. Daddy could not feel it, but he effing still remembers the smell. Then Mommy did not need to do anything to not have a baby anymore, and she was happy. For almost 2 years. Then Auntie Joy and Auntie Carmen and Mommy's friend Maddie all had baby girls, and it made Mommy sad and jealous that the girls were getting all the attention. So Mommy talked to Daddy and said, go to the doctor and have him F with your balls some more. This made Daddy upset because the F I will. Mommy got lots of people to try and tell him to change his mind, but Daddy is happy with his life and told them all to ingest a gigantic satchel of Richards. Mommy spent 4 months, day and night, begging Daddy nonstop. Then remember when you stayed with Oma and Opa? Mommy and Daddy were going to have a fun weekend just doing Mommy and Daddy stuff, until she just would not effing drop it. So Daddy told her that if him and his sons were not enough for her, then he would say that they should go their separate ways. But Daddy loves you boys very much, and you are more than enough for him, and he will always be there for you. Edit 2, Electric Boogaloo. JFC, I would never actually say that to my sons. Once again, it was just a response to all the not-so-bright people asking how I would explain it to them. Odds are I would take them to a family counselor so that I could tell them and then deal with some of the aftermath. I wrote that in anger, but I kind of liked it. I kind of liked it too. That was hilarious. Yeah, great job, OP. That was awesome. I've completely forgotten the question at this point. AITA-H for telling my wife I would be leaving if she kept acting baby crazy. No. I think you're right, OP, because this is so excessive. This is like beyond baby crazy. Especially after everything. No. After everything you went through to give her what she wanted, which was to not have another baby. Even after you agreed you would have 3. And she's like, yes, it's permanent. Go have this permanent surgery. Go through this torture for a little bit for us, for me. And you did because you loved her. And now all of a sudden 3 other people had babies and she wants some of the attention, or maybe she wants a girl. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Because she's being crazy. I know a lot of people don't like the term crazy, but I feel like this deserves it. To get your husband to go have a vasectomy and then be like, oh, no, sorry, I changed my mind, go change it. No, I know it can be done, but that's not fair to your husband. That's not fair to OP. I mean, it sounds like a little bit of physical torture here, but also like to have like this whole campaign against him of people trying to convince him to go get it undone or go through IVF, when had you made this decision earlier, there wouldn't be a surgery to undo, there wouldn't be a fault for IVF expenses. No. And if what you really want is the baby, if it's not to be pregnant again, if you just want the baby, adoption or fostering would be an option for you. So, OP, you are not the asshole. And I've got to say, I believe in marriage, but I fully support you in leaving this one because this is wild. Wow. Okay. That was a lot. Oh, I feel like I want to find something lighter for the last one. That was story number 4. We need to find story number 5. Okay, this one looks good. It is late and I'm tired, so I can tell you guys we are only going to have 5 stories this episode because the ones that we had were pretty long today. Okay, so our last one is coming from r/am I the asshole? AITA for not being reliable enough for my sister to use me as a backup kid caretaker in an emergency. Okay, I was scrolling. This was not as long. Right now, I feel bad about the situation. Ooh, I was supposed to give you my initial reaction. AITA for not being reliable enough for my sister to use me as a backup kid caretaker in an emergency. Initial reaction, no. Those are not your kids. Those are not your responsibility. No. Right now, I feel bad about this situation while also feeling some resentment towards my family. My sister lives about 20 minutes from me, near our parents. There was a family emergency where she needed to meet my parents at the hospital, and taking her kids wasn't an option. She called me up at 6:45 p.m. on her way to my apartment to tell me she needed to drop off the kids quickly and run. I tried to tell her that I was not in the right condition for that. She told me it was an emergency and she had no other option. I begged her to call her mother-in-law. She said that wouldn't work. When she showed up, she stepped inside my apartment to hand off her kids. Like I told her, I wasn't in condition for this. My friend and I had been celebrating her new job. My sister was shocked and disgusted and dragged her kids off, but not before telling me what a pathetic loser she thinks I am. She ended up texting me a novel about how disappointed she is, how upsetting it is for her kids to have walked into my apartment reeking of weed, how I'm 27 and should be over that phase of my life, etc. She ripped into me for still living with 5 roommates, not having a car, all this other stuff. It was deeply hurtful, and I just apologized for not being able to help her and the kids. Of course, I had no idea there could be an emergency like this, but you never know. That's why it's an emergency. Yes, I live with 5 people, but they're my friends and we need each other to afford living here. I don't have a car because I can't drive. Weed is legal here and it's not a crime to smoke once in a while. My sister said she was so disgusted with me that she brought my parents into it. They have all banded together to let me know what a piece of shit I am for not living up to anyone's expectations. I do feel a little bit defensive because I had no way of knowing this would happen. So I guess my question boils down to, am I the asshole because I was not ready for an emergency at my big age of 27? Did I really let my family down? Okay, I got the post to let me edit it, and someone told me to add that the reason I can't drive is because I medically can't drive and never can for my whole entire life, sadly. Okay, I really wasn't concerned about the can't drive part. A lot of people can't. It's fine. It's whatever. No, You are not the asshole. OP, you are right. Your sister seems very high-strung, and very entitled. Like, yes, emergencies happen, but I don't think you should ever expect, family or not, I don't think you should ever expect that you can just drop your kids off at someone's place without calling until you're on the way there and be like, this is a definite, you are taking my kids right now. No. You need to have a plan in place for emergencies. You need to have had these discussions and know who is willing to take your kids at the drop of a hat. Because clearly your sister, brother, it doesn't say, your sibling was not prepared for this. And probably your mother-in-law would have been if you would have had this conversation with her. So I think it is a sister's fault for not thinking ahead, for not thinking through who she would ask to help with childcare in an emergency situation. If you have your life so put together, OP sister, then you should have known emergencies happen and you should have been planning for that. This was not your sibling's problem to deal with. It was yours. And you dealt with it poorly by taking your kids somewhere after your sibling said, no, I'm in no condition. Cannot take them. And you decided to go over there anyway. So it is your fault that your kids saw what they did. This is not about OP. Like, OP's lifestyle is their business. And the sister has no right to degrade him because of the poor choices she made that day. Yeah. OP, you are right. You are not the asshole. And also, for the record, the rest of Edit also dubbed this person not the asshole. So, that is 5 stories for episode 7 of Was I in the Wrong on the Misty Morrison podcast. It is great to be back in the chair recording with you guys. And I will see you all next time. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.